Chris Hensley is a registered representative of Cambridge Investment Research, Inc., a broker-dealer member of FINRA SIPC. Investment advisor representative, Cambridge Investment Research Advisors, Inc., a registered investment advisor. Cambridge and Houston First Financial Group are not affiliated.
Good morning, everybody. You're listening to Money Matters on KPFT Houston. The time now is 11 a.m. Central, is what I'm so used to saying every Friday morning at 11 a.m. However, we are still under lockdown and quarantine here in Houston, and so I'm broadcasting live from a room in my house. KPFT is still closed for now, and so we are playing stuff live from the archives. I think Open Journal is one of the few shows that is still going on. Our Wide Open Spaces with Rourke as well is going on, but other than that, we're playing archives and we're doing pre-recorded stuff like this, but we do have the podcast as well. With that being said, our topic today is going to be wind energy, and we've got a very interesting couple of guests here, Daryl and Sam. We will do kind of a deep dive into sustainable energy, wind energy, and even what does that look like for residential, for home use, that sort of thing. So we'll ask quite a few questions of them. So keep listening, stay tuned. If you are a longtime listener, you know we always use just the first few moments of the show to tell you a little bit about what's going on in the Houston and the Gulf Coast area when it comes to financial literacy. So this week, if you're a longtime listener, you've heard me talk about Houston Money Week. That usually takes place in April. I'm part of the leadership team, and we will be having our first meeting for 2021, believe it or not. That is going to take place this Thursday for Houston Money Week 2021. Also, we have a teacher retirement system talk that is a webinar on the 29th, and then already going into August 11th, we've got a Social Security seminar coming up. All of that information can be found on HoustonFirstFinancialGroup.com. For Houston Money Week, you can find that at HoustonMoneyWeek.gov as well. And with that, Daryl and Sam have been waiting very patiently for me to get through the first half of that. So let me go ahead and open up the air for you here. Now, you guys work with a company called IceWind. Can you tell us a little bit about what IceWind is?
Go ahead, Sam.
Okay, so IceWind is a small vertical axis wind turbine company. We originated out in Reykjavik, Iceland, out of the shell of a former coal power plant. And what we do is we're really trying to transform the sector of small renewable wind turbines. And our wind turbines are built to withstand Icelandic conditions. So, hurricane wind speeds and rain, snow, icing, dirt, particles. Pretty much you think wind turbines, you don't really associate ruggedness and durability with them, especially for small scale wind turbines, ones you put on your home. But our wind turbines are built with the greatest materials available, stainless steel and strong heat treated aluminum to stand the test of time, have a 25 to 30 year lifespan, keep foreign particles out of the gearbox, and just be able to generate power no matter the conditions around. So at the company, we're extremely passionate about renewable energy. We're extremely passionate about wind energy. And we're passionate about building a strong, steady wind turbine to stand and last the test of time.
I love it. I love it. So you guys are the right people to talk to about this topic, because I think for a lot of people, you hear solar, you hear other forms of sustainable energy. Here in Texas, Daryl, you're in Texas as well. If you think of wind energy, you might have driven out in the country and seen like a windmill or something, but it's not the first thing that comes to mind there. How practical is it for somebody to have wind energy either commercially available to their business or even to their home?
It's actually very affordable from the standpoint of the application. In our case, we're more of a geared towards the commercial, but also the off-grid location. So when you absolutely have to have power and you absolutely need it at the most opportune time, that's what we're there for. It's really not something that you would do in lieu of solar. It augments. It's just another add-on and another form of way of producing energy. Good example. I was down there for Hannah. I just drove back. I was on poor day. Was there all weekend watching the hurricane, but in the hurricane. And so we lost power on Port Aransas. I was more towards the Mustang Island side, located there. And what I saw was we lost power about midnight. And that's actually being down there and actually having brought the actual turbine that I have on the back of a trailer down to the coast, to Corpus a few weeks ago on the 4th of July, that it would have actually been able to handle that application. It would have been able to provide power when the power was lost, and it would have been able to operate all the way through that windstorm with all the rain and the conditions that were there. So it's kind of, that was the perfect application if you absolutely needed it in an emergency. Solar's not going to work. It's you're going to need to produce power, and it's going to be that's what it's for. It's to produce power at the most disadvantaged times. Middle of the night, power's cut off, no communications, no cell coverage. It was a classic example of real world for me, and being in Texas, the Gulf Coast would be the ideal location for a wind turbine.
So I love that, because that's a real life example of where, if you compare it to solar, where there are going to be times when there's cloud coverage, where there's maybe you're in a wooded area with a lot of trees and that sort of thing. How practical is that going to be if you have something like this to kind of back it up? I love that idea. Let's kind of go macro with this and look at a bigger picture here. How much wind power do you think is currently installed in the U.S. right now?
That is a total. I don't know the actual numbers because it's huge, and they're adding more as they go along. And right now, there's been a big push to go offshore wind because it's so much greater capacity. There's a lot less issues with a lot of the other environmental concerns are mitigated. The impact. I would much rather have a wind turbine spill than an oil spill or a coal plant or something like that burn up or some catastrophic event. So the solar and wind, and especially wind in Texas and other places like in the Panhandle, all the way up through the plains, offshore, is a great augment. But I have no idea how many gigawatts that we have. They're adding so much capacity so fast. There's literally, you go to some of the sites where they refer to it, and it's just a counting meter, just like the debt clock would be, as it just rolls up.
Wow. So I'm kind of, that's a neat way to look at it. I didn't even think of offshore rigs being a source of just wind power, that it could sit out there on something we have a lot of in the Gulf Coast right now that are just kind of sitting there. So I'm kind of a person that's looking at off-grid and how to implement this. And so the idea, I know, Daryl, you've worked at some modular home stuff as well.
Yes.
And so kind of marrying these things together is extremely interesting to me here. What are some of the benefits to people who might not have looked at it before? I kind of mentioned in my own head, driving down the roads in Texas and seeing these old windmills at farms and sort of thing. But when I got on you guys' website and I looked at this thing that almost looks like a piece of art, very, neat design, very contemporary. What would somebody like myself who's looking at that need to know about that?
Well, the biggest thing that's most exciting, we've renamed that particular wind turbine the Freya, which is the goddess of love and beauty in Norse mythology. So with that being the case, we have something that's very deployable. It can be actually installed you can't just be out of the box, I'm going to IKEA it together. You have to have some technical expertise, like let's say an electrician, a plumber, something along that line, some hands-on practical. And of course, engineers, you got to throw them under the bus too. That's for you, Sam. But the application, what it will do is it will offer you something that's deployable. What I mean by that is you could put it on, pack it up with a crate, and you could take it out to your summer house or summer cabin. You could put it together in a few hours. You could do that type of offer yourself that and just do it yourself. That's what we're going to. That's where the end state we're looking for. It's also there to augment. So let's say you do move or something needs to be done. You can take it apart and it can be redeployed someplace else. It's not mobile to the standpoint where you're just going to just set it up with your camping crew. That's not that right application. But as far as something along those lines and cost effective, it's something that's going to pay for itself over time. Durability. It's going to be there when you need it. That's the most important, because there's a lot of other wind turbines and small ones that are out there, but as soon as the inclement weather comes and as soon as you get that hurricane, they blow apart. They get destroyed. Right. This is a long-term solution that offers you that capability. So for off-grid and being able to do that, it's a great addition to that to those types of applications, because you got the solar. This gives you another source. We have different models we've actually scaled up from here that are larger than the Freya, that produce more power, that are still testing and developing as we're currently. So it's very exciting and it's fun to introduce it, but it's introducing something that's different. It's not going to sit 40 foot in the air.
Right.
Because if you want to get that fixed, it's not something that's very doable. It's pretty much it's a one shot, you're done. And they're 20 years, you have to take them down and start all over.
Wow. So what about businesses? I mean, some of the images on the website, I think there were bus stations or little bus canopies that had the little wind turbine on them. What are some of the, creative ways that this has been used that maybe people haven't thought about in the past?
Okay, that's actually an excellent question. So currently we have a alternate line of wind turbines for more commercial use, and some applications that they've been used for out in Iceland right now are for relay stations, comm stations, trail cameras. But in the future, one of the largest markets we're targeting are telecom towers. As telecom towers across the world, they all run off of usually 2.5 kilowatt diesel generators. And between fuel costs, maintenance costs, repairs, not only are you burning a lot of fossil fuels with those, but there's also a lot of sunk cost just to keep those things up and running. So what we really want to do is supplement a lot of that power generation through fossil fuels with our wind turbines. And that is one of the largest future applications we're looking for, something we're really excited when we dive more into the commercial sector for our wind turbines.
I love that. And the idea that some of this stuff that's running our country right now is connected to old diesel fuel generators is just kind of a crazy idea that it's, hanging on by a thread there. Daryl gave the example of Hurricane Hannah that just hit. It's very possible when we have these natural disasters that come up that some of that stuff could be taken offline. I know I was looking at solar power and they were showing panels and just a simple storm with hail it just destroyed the solar panels. And so the things that I'm seeing on the website, these things look pretty well made. they look like they could probably take some hail.
Yes, they can.
And so that's pretty neat there. Let's pivot for a moment and talk about the economics behind this. How does this make sense financially to either somebody who's looking to do this residentially or even commercially?
The cost, we propose cost right now for the Freya is approximately $3,000 to $4,000. We're right now in the process of launching that product. We're actually going to be announcing this week, as you well know. So it makes sense for the people that are off grid that want something that's going to be there for a long time. It makes absolute sense. If this is something that you're just going to use sporadically or one-off type thing, doesn't make absolutely not the right situation. But along the coast, great augment to solar, especially considering, like we said, with Hannah. Another thing about this turbine and that makes it wonderful is this is just one. We are going to have a 500 watt edition and 1,000 watt. Now, will it turn out to be that wattage? We have to completely test it and verify the speed. So most likely it will perform better than what we've seen with the testing we have done with the Freya. Is it performs much better as we've developed the actual turbine. So the actual impact for those people and what it can do for them is going to be huge because they're going to be off grid. They're going to be doing something sustainable, and it's going to hold up to when they need it. Durability is key in this sector that really is an unproven. I'm actually discovered through going into this business more and diving into the market. We're trying to validate it because there's really no comparison. There's nobody out there at this small power with wind turbines that are able to do what this does. So it's kind of like
Wow.
we're discovering this as we go.
I love it. So it's cutting edge with something that we've had forever, but we haven't really designed it in such a way that you guys are stepping in and doing this. It's a really neat and exciting thing there. Talk about so the modular homes. I know we've talked with sustainability and renewable power is something that we've talked about on this show many times before. But the idea of modular homes, not everybody even knows, what that is or how that's taking into consideration a lot of the newer technology that we've had, the green build and that kind of stuff. How would you combine it with, say, like a modular home?
Especially for ourselves, especially being like there's two different classifications. There's a wind zone 1, a wind zone 2, which is along the whole coast of Texas, and they have different standards by which they're built. But this would be a great augment because typically, as long as you have a clearing, it's not going to do real well if you have trees right up against it. It needs open space so that the wind can get to it, or not right next to a building. So you have to have a little bit of acreage or a little bit of space to deploy it. Height also helps. Not on its own a tower or anything like that, but definitely not sitting at 2 or 3 feet above ground. But it can. You'd like to get it a little bit taller as you can, but you want it free and clear of buildings. But the biggest thing that it would do is offers you deployability. I've actually had some experience with helical piers, which is kind of like a screw type of an anchor that you would use. What that would allow you to do is actually screw it in and mount it, put a plate on top, and actually bolt it together. Very easy. You can move it from location to location. So if, let's say, you had a small job trailer or some sort of a shipping container house, something like that, you could put this on top of the shipping container. You'd have to modify and create your own, like a bracket or stand to be on, but it would be something that you would be deployable, movable. Also, something that could be along with some solar panels deployed and would offer you an off-grid hunting lodge, an off-grid retreat or something, or even an ADU to keep you from having to buy grid power and do the hookups. So there's really a lot of flexibility there when you talk about modular and how you can deploy it. That's what's nice about it. In Texas, we have a little bit of space and we have a lot of wind here in different locations around the state.
Because a lot of the stuff about this off grid, but how can more wind be accommodated on grid? Is that something that you could tie it in, like where people have kind of hybrided solar with
let's say I'm answering that.
Maybe like a backup generator or anything like that? Is that something that's okay? I may be totally off.
Oh, no, you're right on. Our turbines can be deployed on grid or off grid. So if you choose to deploy one of maybe our Freya unit, let's say on grid, it's easily hooked into your current grid system. So then you're just taking money off the monthly meter. So yeah, with dual hybrid solar, you can plug both of those in, start really making a dent in how much you pay for electricity costs every month.
I know people who've considered solar residentially here in the Houston metropolitan Gulf Coast, that kind of stuff. They think about that, and so that's the idea that can be also integrated into the system is a really neat idea. Is there accommodated to be converted into power?
Excuse me, could you just repeat that question? You cut out just a tiny bit, so I missed the end of that.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry, it got glitchy here as well. So, is there a limit to how much wind can be accommodated for in this? Like, is there a cap as to how much?
Yes, and that limit is
convert to power.
That limit is 130 miles per hour. So, like terribly high hurricane speeds.
Okay. if we're in a wind over 130 miles, I think we've got other problems going on at that
Yes,
point.
there's going to be a little bit more severe issues there.
Yes, yes. Well, good.
Sa-
Now you guys have we're bumping close to the end of the half hour here, but are there any important announcements that you might want to share with listeners that I haven't asked you about yet?
Well, one thing that we're doing is we're actually getting ready to launch a product here in the United States. We're going to be announcing ourselves open for pre-order, and then we're going to be going about the process as we get that validation, and we're looking for validation in the marketplace. We need help and find out more about our turbines and actually see if this is something that's going to make in the market, and see if people really need this and actually offer it across the nation, and soon to be, of course, around the world. Of course, it's just going to depend on the rollout as we go forward. We're working with Southwest Research to develop and continue to test, which is based here in San Antonio. And we're talking with them about helping us with testing further and further development. We're also looking at how we can Americanize it, how we can have it made here in America. We'd really like to see different components and be able to do that, and that's what we're working on right now. As probably the biggest project we have right now that Sam and I are working on as the American team is to raise awareness and to see what we're going to be able to do in the marketplace. So it's kind of exciting times for us, and it's good. It's kind of exciting because at this point, it's like in all this noise, here we are with this great innovative technology, and trying to cut through all of that and share our story. And so here we go.
I would say the silver lining to that is I think there's a lot of people that are looking for these alternative sources of energy at this time that might not have thought about it in the past. They're considering this kind of stuff right now. So it's difficult in one sense, but in the other, you might have some eyes looking there. So I love it. I love it. We're right here at the end of this show. Sam, do you have any thoughts to leave listeners with today?
I just wanted to briefly mention, just in case any of your viewers are very interested in some of the kind of complex and interesting engineering going on behind our wind turbines. So horizontal wind axis wind turbines are those large wind farms you see. Vertical axis wind turbines are what we make, and they spin around and can catch wind omnidirectionally, so from any direction. And what really sets IceWind's turbines apart from any other vertical or horizontal axis turbine out there on the market is we have two sets of blades. If you go on our website and look at the picture of the Freya, you'll see that. That inner set of blades, 3 blades, it's called a Darius design. And what that does, that is basically a pinwheel used since basically the times of the Persians. So it's a very ancient technology. Oh, I'm so sorry. I got to correct myself. That is the Savonius design. My bad. Just messed up the words there. Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay.
That Savonius design are those inner blades that just catch wind and self-regulate its own speed, and it's a very ancient design. The outer blades we have are of a Darius design. It's almost an airfoil and airplane wing type design, which generates high amount of lift. So those two blades in conjunction together provide wind energy at low wind speeds and regulate itself so it doesn't overspin and tear itself apart. And it's just a very innovative combination of blades together.
I love it. I love it. So for listeners, if you'd like to find out more about this, could you give us the website one more time, guys?
IceWindUSA.com.
Perfect.
And you can find us on social media, Facebook just search IceWind and you'll find us.
If you're driving, if you don't have to stop the car and write it down, because you can go to the podcast and we'll have a link to that on the podcast notes as well. Sam, Daryl, thank you so much for spending time with us, and have a great rest of the day there.
Thank you as well. Appreciate your time, Christopher.
All right. Have a good one.
Thanks. You as
You
well.
too.